The plan talks about kind of facilities that can be addressed, and you'll see these, some of these on the plan that's before you this evening, the bike plan. They include things such as shared roadways, and those are essentially situations where there are no particular areas that the bike is meant to be that are designated for that purpose. They are just out in the lane with the vehicles sharing the lane. Typically, you'll see signs like this indicating that there are going to be bikes on the road and a share of the road placard underneath. Neighborhood greenways. These are a great facility. The idea here is that out of all the bike routes that you have in your network, the greenways are going to be the friendliest, the ones that potentially have the lowest speeds for vehicles, the lowest traffic volumes, hopefully are going to be through areas that are very appealing to the eye, very nice for people to ride, very comfortable to ride. Typically they are designated with a Sharrow system like this, and you've seen that particular emblem on Main Street. And they are often set up such that either the speeds are lower or stop signs are modified such that it gives some precedence to the bicyclists on these greenway routes. Our very first greenway is slated to open officially tomorrow, 5 p.m., Friendship Square. The mayor will be there. We will be doing a couple things at that event, starting with a presentation to the mayor on an award that the city has recently received, notifying that we are a bronze category city as an American biking community. That will be followed by a ribbon cutting by the mayor, and then an inaugural ride around the Greenway through the city. And so we hope folks will be there to join us. There'll be refreshments available, and again, 5 o'clock, Friendship Square, our first ride around the official ride around the Greenway. Really looking forward to it.
It'll be a fun ride.
Be a fun ride.
Okay, questions for Les?
Oh, still going on. So
You're
other.
done, Les.
No,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, not quite, not quite. I just had to pause for that one. So make the point. Sharrows is, again, they're on the Greenways. You'll see, we also have them downtown. You'll see them on other routes that are not really considered greenways, but are considered areas where we want folks to know that, yes, there are going to be bicycles on the road. It's a shared facility with bikes and vehicles. Bike lanes, you've all seen these. They're pretty traditional, separated space on the roadway marked with a wider white line, bike symbol, and an arrow indicating direction. There are a number of these proposed within the new plan. There are some of these already within the existing network. A variant on this is a buffered bike lane, so it has the same setup with the main line, striping near the curb, bike symbol, and the arrow, but then you see a second line out here, and sometimes these little crosshatch marks. That is the buffer zone, as they call it, as in a buffered bike lane. The intent of that is really to provide a little more separation between the vehicle and the bicycle. And normally these are installed on either higher volume or higher speed roadways where you've got a pretty good speed differential. So as a biker, if you're doing 10, 15 miles an hour comfortably, but that car is coming by at 35 or 40, not everybody's comfortable with that fact that that vehicle's passing them that much more quickly. So you will see these types of facilities on areas where you tend to have higher speed. We have a few of these proposed within the network, and in the future I'd like to see some others, possibly out on State Highway 8 heading towards Pullman. Bike lanes are out there already. I think there's room, if I can get ITD convinced, to add at least a couple of foot wide buffers out in that area. Typically they're 3 to as much as 5 feet wide, the buffer. You can go as little as 2, just to provide you some kind of additional clearance. Cycle tracks, this is not in the plan, but it's something that was in the transportation plan, just pointing out that these are facilities out there. These are separated, dedicated bicycle facilities. They're typically right next to the roadway like you see in this example. Here they've actually used some curbing and planters to give you somewhat of a hard barrier between. In this case, it's a two-way cycle track with a center stripe down the middle. Not terribly wide in this case when you look at this. This is probably maybe not even 8 feet, 7 to 8 feet wide, I'd guess, looking at these lanes. Again, we're not really proposing this. The transportation plan did suggest these on the couplet downtown, taking out a travel lane and putting in cycle tracks. I have my doubts we'll ever be able to achieve that with ITD, but it's in the transportation plan. And then shared use pathways, obviously we have pathways within the system today. Our pathways are shared use in that they're both pedestrian and bicycle and skateboard and rollerblade and even cross-country ski friendly, if you will. We don't typically separate like they've done in this particular instance where they got bikes on one side and pedestrians on the other. Some of the higher volume facilities in bigger cities will do that. We haven't seen a need yet to take that approach. Okay, the plan, transportation plan also recommends that we address what they call a tiered bicycle network, and there are some just basic caveats here that they say, these will help you get there. And for the most part, we've really adopted this in the plan that's before you this evening. Picking routes that are already well suited to bicycle travel. I mean, don't reinvent the wheel. Don't pick things that you really have to work hard to make them into a route. I mean, people are riding where it makes sense to ride today based on comfort level, traffic, street width, all those kind of things. So pick those types of routes. Again, well used by bicyclists. It's just kind of a natural. Close gaps in the existing bike network. We have a lot of gaps in our network as it exists today. Provide an east-west and north-south connections. That's important for bikes as well as vehicles in our network. And then develop more dedicated bicycle facilities, so bike lanes, buffered bike lanes that we've just touched on. And again, the plan before you this evening, the map, does include the bike lane aspect and buffered bike lanes. This was the map out of the transportation plan. These were the routes that they recommended when the plan was done. There's a lot of overlap between these and what's in the plan before you this evening, or the map before you this evening. There are some areas where we took a different approach, and the map that we prepared was really based on on-the-ground inspection. So physically going out, looking at the individual streets, conditions of the roads, sight distances, intersections, what the topography was like, to really pick, okay, of these three options, this street is the best choice. So that is the map that's in your packet this evening. This version on the screen does not include the facilities. And I put this up first because it's a little easier to tell what the bike route designations are. So just to take a moment and run through this, there are three different colors on the map. So the lighter green that you see here, those represent the easy routes. Okay. And this color scheme is similar to downhill skiing or cross-country skiing designations for those that do that. You're familiar with the green, blue, black scheme. So this is on a similar fashion. So the green, easier routes, flatter topography, lower volumes, sometimes lower speeds, just a little more friendly and more comfort, if you will, to take those routes. The blue routes are the intermediates. You see there's a number of them as you work through this part of town. That happens to be where some of the hill is when you're going from east to west or west to east. You go up or down this hill through here. Also on the south end of town, running around in the University Heights area, there's a lot of topography down there. Same thing up over Indian Hills, those kind of areas. So generally it's gone to an intermediate or blue route if the topography is more challenging, if you've got bigger hills, or if you're starting to see a little higher traffic volumes or traffic speeds. In some areas, it's a little hard to see on the screen, but there's some little hatch marks here and up here. Those represent where the hill is steepest. Okay? Just to give folks an idea, if I'm going this way, I know that there's a hill here that's steeper than the rest of the system. Okay? It's easier to see on the individual maps. And I might point out for the audience, if anybody's interested, there's a copy of the big map here on the board behind me. If anybody wants to take a peek at that. And then the black routes, the most difficult, basically the highways, State Highway 8, US 95, State Highway 8 on this end. And they're on the system. They weren't originally. When I first brought this draft forward to the commission, I did not include those in some areas, particularly through downtown on 3rd Street. But for those bikers that are more avid and they're familiar with riding the road, they're comfortable in traffic, they can keep up the speed, they're like, we're part of the group and part of that slice that wants to go out and ride bikes. So having these routes designated is important for us as well. And so here they are. There are those that are going to be comfortable riding 3rd Street through downtown, and others will never do it. and that's fine. That's why we have a variety of difficulty levels here, if you will. So those are the more difficult routes. Primarily, it's traffic, congestion, and higher speeds, higher volumes. So you get out on Pullman Highway, it's pushing up to 35, 45 as you get out towards the state line. Not everybody wants to do that.